at the moment, you wouldn't get, say, a career advisor in the sixth form identifying somebody who's like a really hard worker, great communication skills, entrepreneurial attitude. They wouldn't be suggesting, oh, direct selling industry, because that's not on their sort of crib sheet of what they're due to, meant to advise people. So I think there's a real shift there that needs to happen.
Welcome back to Heritage and Horizon, the direct selling podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Murray. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by my guest, Michelle McWhinnie. Michelle is the Operations Director at Usborne Publishing, where she heads up the direct selling arm of the business, Usborne Community Partnerships. With a background working in senior leadership roles in the finance and tech industries, Michelle brings decades of highly analytical business experience to her current role. Her mission today is to support independent Usborne partners to share their award-winning books, helping to spark children's curiosity and grow their confidence. Michelle is incredibly passionate about helping people to fulfill their ambitions and brings a uniquely modern perspective to shaping growth strategy within the sector. Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Stuart. It's great to be here.
Thank you. But my pleasure to have you as guest. So, as I just explained, your background has had quite a lot of experience in very different sectors to where you are now. So within the finance and tech sectors, which are obviously very, very different to the world of children's books and publishing. So I wondered, how has the experience you gained in those other sectors influenced your style of managing the team that you have at Usborne?
Well, I think any experience in any business helps you. I think when business is business, when you've grasped the basic principles and you've developed those leadership skills required to achieve the strategic goals, you can operate in any industry. And Usborne Community Partnerships is completely in line with my values. I'm passionate about what it does. So I'm using those business skills that I've attained over my history working in different industries to achieve, a great thing in this industry. So it is a pleasure to get books into children's hands. Is a great honour, and to help people develop their own businesses to work around their commitments is an amazing thing to do. So it has a real good feel good factor for that. So I'm very grateful for the knowledge that I've gained over the years in the tech industry and finance, but it has been very operational and business and strategic led, which is all transferable to this industry.
How was that move coming from obviously a very technical, analytical area into something into the world of publishing? How did you find that? I'm guessing it was a pleasant experience because you say there's an alignment of values, but how did it kind of come about?
Yeah, it was by luck that I got to be working for Usborne. Literally, when I was younger, in my teenage years, and like in the 80s, I know my mum and a friend of hers, one of our neighbours, used to do sort of Betterware and Avon, and I used to help with the catalogues through the doors, and used to intrigue me and the parties and everything else. So I used to help deliver the orders and things. So I had a little bit of exposure to direct selling without really realising it when I was quite young. And then when I was on maternity leave, I actually had a leaflet drop through my door, and it was from Usborne about selling their books. And I had my new son, and I was like, okay, this looks great. I'll do this. Get out, socialise, make a bit of money. I ended up building a team, etc. So that was 23 years ago. I loved Usborne Books. I did end up being drawn back into a director position in the finance industry at the time, but it did make me fall in love with Usborne Books. So like many years later, so 5 years ago now, I saw the little balloon when I was looking for an apprenticeship for my son, who was 18 at the time, and read the job spec, and here I am nearly 5 years later. So it was by luck that I ended up getting back into working with Usborne, but yeah, it was meant to be.
Yeah, that's the exact phrase I was just thinking of in mind. It clearly was meant to be.
Yeah,
Funny how the world works at times. And I also think it's a really common thing of a lot of people that work within the direct selling industry have had a touch point with it at some point in their lives when they were younger, either a neighbor or their mum or their friend. You know, their
mm,
mum's friend used to do Avon. Avon's the most
mm.
common one, I guess, because it's been around for so long. But yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people have often had exposure to it, but when they kind of re-encounter it in their adult life, they don't necessarily realize it was one
Yeah,
and the same thing. It's, yeah, interesting.
exactly. It's definitely evolved over the years.
Yeah, perfect. Right, let's move into then, while we're talking kind of about the good old days, into the heritage. So the heritage is all about the traditions and the foundations that built the industry and the principles that we've all adhered to that have enabled it to be around for over 100 years. So the initial question to you, a simple one, but hopefully with a bit more of a detailed answer, is what do you think should never change within direct selling?
It's got to be the human connection. And I think as AI is rapidly replacing humans in so many areas to dominate this operational efficiency, but nothing can beat that face to face selling. To see a product in the real world and to talk to a real person, to gain recommendations and sort of understanding of the product and leave with a product that you feel confident with. Yeah, you're buying from a place of trust then, and by talking to a real person. So yeah, that human connection is really important. And I think also in nowadays with the world of remote working, isolation and loneliness
Mm,
is definitely an issue. And I think the high street seems to be shutting down like one shop at a time, and the internet just can't replace that real life shopping experience of talking to someone about their interests, finding the right products for them, and then them leaving with that happy about the experience they've had.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think automation scales up through use of AI, and the human interaction becomes the rare and valuable commodity. So consumers increasingly want experiences that feel authentic, they feel personal, they're not
Mhm,
programmed. So arguably, the more the digital world becomes, you know, the more digital the world becomes, the more meaningful that human connection feels.
yeah.
So I think more informed product recommendation, locally focused representatives that the direct selling industry has provides that authentic relationship that customers now really sort of strive for.
Mm,
And I think that the more we see, and we're seeing it even more this year in 2026, is that AI is being used to scale, and humans become more for the significance. So we
mhm,
can use the automation to handle those routine tasks like order tracking, frequently asked questions, stock tracking, analytics, etc. But those human expertise
mhm,
for those high emotional tasks like onboarding new teamies, sales, dealing with returns, advice, and that's when the customer feels seen and heard, and that loyalty really deepens.
mhm,
And also, I suppose at the moment with the economic pressures, they're really squeezing finances. So people are scrutinising every purchase, and that discretionary spend is down. So that value-driven sort of decision making is definitely up. Trust becomes the ultimate currency there. So more people will be trusting recommendations from friends and families
mhm.
over other forms of advertising that we're seeing.
AI, it's come up a lot in the previous discussions I've had on with prior guests, and it obviously is the new kid on the block really, and I think it's how establishing where does it really fit in, and I really like the phrase you use around that AI should be used for scale and the human connection is around the significance. I think it's a really nice way to put it. How within Usborne do you balance using automation for like the routine tasks you mentioned, whilst making sure that it doesn't encroach on those high touch points, high emotion touch points that independent Usborne partners would have around either being onboarded or recommending products for customers. How do you kind of balance the two?
Yeah, it's really important to release time, and I think as one community partnerships, we've put a lot of time into ensuring our partners have the information they need about the books. So they've got 3,000 books that are always in stock, so it's a lot of information. You can't keep it all in your head; it needs to be easily accessible, and they also need to be able to see at a glance what's going on in their book selling business. So we've spent a lot of time and money on the sort of technology to help them with that, so that they can see what's going on and where to spend their time for maximum impact. And that will be on the meetings, meeting the needs of their customers and making recommendations and working on their team. So it would be able to sort of have those conversations and have those sort of training sessions, those one-on-one conversations. So that's sort of where our time has gone, is to try and release the valuable time that our partners have to do the things that are really important. So and there's always going to be time taken, like placing the orders and things like that, but we're trying to streamline it and make it as easy as possible. So those sort of, they're effectively not doing those admin tasks which technology can do for them. And we try also, there was one point where we were sending like far too many email updates and things. So that, again, that's a lot of time and reading all that information. So we try and keep those regular updates to a minimum, so they have the information they need in small snippets and easily accessible, not overwhelmed with so much information. And then they can really focus on what, those personal contacts. Technology has automated the availability of materials through the onboarding process, but the mentoring comes from the individual, guiding their team members through that process. And then for them to be able to personalise the advice for that team is sort of circumstances, basically. So it makes it really valuable then. So I think it actually works really well together. It sort of dovetails that you have everything you need to build the confidence for you to be able to give that personal advice and do those communications effectively.
It's exactly as you say, it's about finding the right way for technology to take away the kind of cumbersome, monotonous
Mm,
admin work so that people get more time freed up for doing the valuable stuff and the stuff that
yeah,
matters. And from people probably won't know, but I've kind of worked with you and with Usborne in the past and met with some of your partners. And out of all of the direct selling companies I've ever had any involvement with, I've always said to you around that it has a very different feel to a company. It feels very family orientated and very close knit and a very kind of nice, warm, welcoming community. So I think it's probably even more important for you to not lose that human connection, really, because it would almost lose the essence of Usborne, it feels, if that ever did happen.
indeed. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Um, you mentioned as well about with the decline of the high street and kind of the people maybe being driven to the internet for purchasing and for kind of finding things that ordinarily they would maybe go out and look either on the high street or talk to somebody about. How do you think that your partners use their kind of local focus and influence to help build communities and maybe fill some of the void that's been left by that decline on the high street and people not actually going out and talking to each other face to face anymore?
It's in our name, really. As one community partnerships, we are all about the community. So our independent personal partners are amazing. I'm very proud of everything they do in their local communities. They're raising funds for schools, getting them free books. They're doing pop-ups, school fairs, World Book Day events, author events, Ready Steady Reads, all these amazing things, which involves the local community and the parents and grandparents, etc., and the families in that area. So the schools have little or no budget for books for their pupils, and the independent husband partner is able to work with them to enable them to get the books they need to give to their pupils. So if you don't, it's a feel good factor in itself, but the community aspect of that's huge. It's not just schools. They're working in hospitals, they're refurbishing libraries, they're working with local businesses to get community pledges. They're doing sort of look for books around their local parks, funded by local businesses, so children can go out and find a book, free book for them. The rural areas where there's no libraries and no shops, they're bringing books to those communities. So you're bringing people together. They're working with the retirement communities, dementia and mental health groups, pop-ups in gyms, local leisure centres, hospitals, etc. So they're sort of everywhere within the community, and just by being there, and Usborne's very bright and colourful, it generates conversation. So they're working with adult groups as well. So they might be in the local pub or community centre running a book club for adults. So get together to chat about the book reading. So everything our partners do brings people together and contributes to the community, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think adding that it's not just about it's not just a job, or it's not a way just of earning money. There's a greater purpose behind it, and as I say, from my interaction with a lot of your partners, that you really feel that as well. Of that, they're obviously doing it ultimately because they need an income, but there is a much bigger purpose behind it for a lot of them, and I think that's what probably drives the longevity as well for people to continue to do this for a long time as well, I guess.
Yeah, we have partners that have been doing this for decades. We've
Wow.
been around over 40 years now, our direct selling arm of the business, if you like. So we have some very long in the tooth partners that have been doing this within their local communities, and they're so well known. And yeah, they're just, amazing.
Yeah, you might. My last kind of question within around this kind of point is you talked about trust being the ultimate currency nowadays, and you think we're very skeptical about what we see online and is it real? Is it AI generated? Um, why do you think that in this day and age, a face-to-face recommendation from a direct seller carries so much more weight than a piece of, say, online advertising? Um, why do you kind of think that because a few people now have mentioned this around that actually a recommendation from someone that you know is far more important than a recommendation from an online influencer who you might follow but you've never met? Why do you think that is the case?
I think we're bombarded with adverts on all platforms now. Customers don't know what to believe anymore. So people are happier to spend on something they can see either with their own eyes or touch, or from a recommendation of somebody they know, as you were saying. So the partners build relationships with their customers. They get to know their children's interests, what types of books capture their imagination. So they can then recommend books through as they grow as well. So parents like that fact that they've got somebody with the knowledge of a product that can help them with those choices and where to spend their money for their children. So, I think it's so important. I think people are more trusting of somebody they've got to know. So, parents are willing to spend on books for their children if they know they're going to engage with them and they're going to help their child develop. So, I think once you've got that relationship, and it is all about relationship and communication, then that's great, great thing. And you can only really do that through the direct selling industry, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably even more important, I guess, around the kind of the product area. So as you say, the fact that people are buying something for that would contribute to their child's development or building of confidence or helping their education, it's something where actually that trust element is even more important than maybe if you were buying, any other kind of product that you think, okay, I bought it, it wasn't great, I'll move on. People, they want to make sure what they're investing in for their children is right and is going to be a good thing for their children.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's now move on to the horizon. So this is all really about kind of what is going to enable the industry to survive for another 100 years. So unless there's some big medical development, you and I probably won't be around in 100 years. You never know. Um, but what do you think is something based on your experience now? It's something that does need to radically change within the industry to ensure its survival.
I think it's showing the newer generations that direct selling is a valid career choice. I think there's still a stigma around direct sales, the second thing is it isn't visible or known as a legitimate way of earn money. So I think more support should be given to people wanting to earn money on their own terms, as long as they're willing to put in the work to do so. The issue is also the issue is also that you get what you put into direct sales. Historically, you could have earned a lot of money through direct sales online, for instance, but now you can't. It isn't a get rich quick scheme, but it is a way of earning an uncapped income that is based on what you're prepared to put into it rather than the qualifications you may have on a piece of paper. So it should be a way of sort of helping the unemployment crisis at the moment. You know, if it was a respected career path in the way it should be, it would, alleviate potential problems we have within society at the moment. So it's a real challenge to deal with that. But I think you can see the work that Direct Selling Association have been doing to get those real life stories out there to cross some of those barriers. It is starting to make an impact. But yeah, we need to be able to sort of talk to the new generations and present it as a clear opportunity for people to make that choice.
What do you think are the biggest misconceptions around direct selling, and how do you think as an industry that what is the best way to, I guess, dismantle those misconceptions?
It's quite a difficult one because there's so much baggage from the history, I think. So yeah, the main issue, it isn't always seen as a legitimate job or a way of earning a living yet. So many people even though so many people are doing just that, they're earning a decent income over an extended period, yet still it's seen as a sort of a side hustle, or even if it is paying all the household bills. So yeah, nowadays at the moment you wouldn't get, say, a career advisor in the sixth form identifying somebody who's like a really hard worker, great communication skills, entrepreneurial attitude. They wouldn't be suggesting, oh, direct selling industry, because that's not on their sort of crib sheet of what they're due to, meant to advise people. So I think there's a real shift there that needs to happen. It's like the job centres and things. Well, if they've got somebody presented with them with health issues, or they're a carer, they're unable to work a 9 to 5 job, but they could be working flexibly around their other commitments and these issues in direct selling. And we have independent small partners that are carers or have health issues who have really successful businesses working around their other commitments. You couldn't do that in a mainstream employment where you needed ad hoc time off, etc., or you needed to work at odd times of the day and things. So I think education is really key here. So making sure that the right organisations and even at a government level know about the opportunity, and then it's visible to those that have those skills and have that drive and are willing to work hard. So yeah, as I was saying, the work that Direct Selling Association have been doing over the past few years and getting those stories out into the media is starting to make an impact on that visibility, and making it an authentic and legitimate way of earning your money. So people want to feel safe in their choices and trust that it is a legitimate choice to make.
Exactly, it's about making it mainstream, I guess, of that
Yeah, normal.
it shouldn't be something that you need to think twice about, really. Obviously, people want to make sure it's right for them and do their proper due diligence, but it shouldn't be something that the default setting is, oh, that's a bit iffy,
Yeah.
not sure about that. Um, you talked as well a little bit earlier about kind of attracting that new generation into the industry, and that is something that I think a lot of companies are struggling with, of how to attract people, the younger generation, and how to maybe talk about direct selling in using terminology that will be familiar to that younger generation. Are there any kind of ideas you've got about how the industry needs to pivot to do that, around changes that it might need to make in either kind of its advertising strategy, its communication styles, to talk to that younger generation?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, this generation is very good at researching. It's very quick to dismiss anything that feels opaque or not, or sort of too good to be true.
Yeah,
Um, so that reputational baggage from decades ago is still having an impact at the moment. So companies really do need to be creating like a organic sort of creator-led content on their platforms, that where those younger generations are on TikTok and Instagram, etc., so that they can see the authenticity for it, and they can see that it's a real opportunity they could be getting involved in.
yeah,
Younger generations are quite financially literate as well, so, and they're very risk aware. So I think income disclosure statements just don't work anymore. This is generations better. There's better alternatives that they see existing for them, so that are more transparent and scalable for them. So like building their personal brand or selling on platforms like Spotify or Etsy and things.
yeah.
So the creator economy, etc. So they are also more cautious about blending their social life and sales. So they don't want to monetize personal relationships. So it has to be clear in the communications that the companies, that they don't have to do that at all.
Yeah.
And just make clear of what's involved in it, so they can see, okay, that meets with my expectations and I could do this.
As you say, there's a lot more. It's a little bit like we said earlier around it, that money isn't the predominant driver for them looking for a career. There's a lot more um, kind of value added to the autonomy they have, or a sense of purpose, or the values, and they want to find a career that aligns with those. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it does feel like we need to, the way that we maybe used to talk about the industry and present it, certainly from a if I was a direct seller or a leader doing an opportunity meeting, if is it even the right still to do those to a younger generation? Do they want that one-on-one where it's done through a WhatsApp, or it's
yeah,
just a very different style, and kind of maybe the old days of standing up with a whiteboard and drawing lots of circles to show how you can build a team. Again, it just doesn't feel like that would connect now with that new generation, and we need to find a new way that talks about it very transparently, as you said,
yeah,
around that there is kind of uncapped income potential, but it's around how much effort you put in. And I think
yeah,
it's just finding that correct way to position it and talk to those people about it without switching them off. And it also can't be a half-hour meeting, I guess. It needs to be very short, snappy, tell them what they
yeah.
need to know,
Time
let them do it.
time is critical on that. I think that, as you say, in the radical transparency, so that average earnings, not the top performer, they need to know what's realistic, as they'll just switch off from it. So the time investment required, the drop off rates, all that information is really key for their decision making of whether this is for them or not. So builds that trust with them, and sort of narrows that funnel, if you like. And I think there's a shift from the recruitment to product first. So younger consumers engage with a high quality competitive product. So brands, very clear values sort of beyond that business opportunity. So it's a different conversation. It has to be presented in a different way. I think also emphasising the skill building. I see this all the time with our independent and partners that have joined us, that they learn so much through, they've learned skills that they never had in previous jobs they had or through their life. So they learn sales skills, marketing skills, entrepreneurship skills. They build all these transferable skills that can be used throughout their life, not just in like work situation, but in general, social settings and life settings. So, and I think also need to drop the one size fits all. The Yeah, so they need to be able to market, they're using their own voice, and choose channels that suits them. So avoiding that scripted outreach, which is quite old fashioned now, and doesn't sit comfortably with. It doesn't come through across as authentic from them. So I think that authenticity beats duplication, definitely for this audience. And ethics, you mentioned there, Stuart, ethics. The ethics you have to address head on. Yeah, how is revenue generated? Show the safeguards against exploitation, demonstrate compliance. They're all really, really important to this generation, and it has to be communicated and visibly that information needs to be available to them. So that's more a higher priority for these generations than previous generations.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting few years as to which companies do make that pivot and where they actually. I get that budgets are tight nowadays, and companies are having to make a decision as to where they place the investment and balancing maybe putting that investment into compensation plans, or do you actually need to think actually we need to be putting it in building the sustainability of the business and maybe putting money into different areas that you wouldn't have done in the past to attract the next generation, so as the current group of maybe legacy leaders and sellers that companies have, as they naturally leave, they are being backfilled by a new generation that has that same drive, passion for what they're doing, albeit it might be through a different lens. But it feels like if we don't do that, the companies won't survive because there won't be enough young blood coming in to keep driving and building a new generation for the direct selling company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be paramount, and that will be, how the industry succeeds going forward if they can make that pivot, make these changes. It's just looking through a different lens now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've amazingly half an hour's nearly gone by, so we're almost come to the end. But the very last section is the quickfire round. So a few more relaxed, fun questions, if you want to call them fun. Probably not fun for you because you aren't aware what they are, and you're just going to have 5 of them thrown at you. But short, quick, snappy answers to hopefully get us to know you as a person a little bit better. So first question, quite apt for you and kind of where you're based, but what was your favourite book as a child?
Ooh. I had so many books, Stuart. This is a really hard question for me, and I've read so many since. So I had. I used to love the sort of famous five and things like that, and I still love a good sort of adventure story and mystery to solve. So I'm still very into that type of book now. So I was a very big famous five reader when I was younger. So yeah, there was loads of different books that I enjoyed, but yeah, I think that probably started me on the journey of reading my mystery novels.
Okay. Yeah, I think was there the Secret Seven as well?
There was, yeah, I
The
read those.
Secret Seven. I think,
I was
as I
famous.
remember the child, I'm sure it was I preferred the Secret Seven over. I couldn't now tell you anything about them. It's gone completely from my brain, the detail of it. But I loved one or the other, and I'm sure it was the Secret Seven that I liked. But yeah, I agree. That same thing, a little bit of escapism, adventure as a
Yeah.
child. Yeah, lovely. When you're trying to focus on a really important piece of work, is there any particular habit that you have to help you get through that? So either listening to music, listening to a podcast, or are you the kind of person that has to have complete silence and lock yourself away to focus on something?
I'm a silence and focus. I'm easily distracted, especially if there's people to talk to, because I'm a bit of a chatter. So I would need to make sure I put the time in my diary and prioritise sitting down and getting through, especially if it's like a more of a less interesting task to get through, but you've got to do it. So I would make sure I've put the time in my diary and try and close off and switch off and try and focus on it to get it done.
Okay. Following on from that, would you say that you're an early morning brainstormer or a late night problem solver?
I'm definitely an early person. I wake up early and I'm brighter in the morning. You're not going to get much sense out of me in the evening, I'm afraid. Very important decisions are made late at night for me. They're definitely morning.
What would you say is the best investment that you've ever made in your own professional development?
I think it was doing my MBA. I did an Open University course, so I did it while I was working.
Okay.
And it just gave me, we talked about business and my business history, etc. And I think it just gave me the basics across all the areas of business. So it's allowed me to be quite versatile in how I can help the business as a whole. So I think the investment in that course has really helped me throughout my career in whatever I've done. So and at home perhaps as well in organisation and things. So yeah, it gave me key skills and a network of people as well, because you actually work with like study groups and people in different industries as well. So you learn lots
Mhm.
of interesting things and about other people and other businesses on the journey.
And last question, always the same question for every guest, really. How would you sum up the future of direct selling in 3 words?
I think it's really exciting. It's a real pivot at the moment. So I think it's like new horizons, new generations coming through. So I think the discussions that are going on with like government and policy setting to get that visibility of direct selling, so acceptance of it is really important. So I'm really looking forward to seeing direct selling as being a known employment status, if you like, going forward. And I think, it should be going from strength to strength, just allowing people flexibility and working with their communities even more. That was not 3 words, Stuart. That was a lot. But that's really hard to put into 3 words.
It is. It is. Not many people have done it, so no, we'll let
Okay.
you off. But no, thank you, Michelle. It's been really insightful. It always amazes me how quickly these conversations go. That we're now 35 minutes in, and it's a very a great conversation to have. But it's just a shame we don't have longer to do it, really. But thank you for all of your insights and speaking so openly and candidly. It's been really interesting. So thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all of you too for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, you can contribute to the conversation by joining our LinkedIn group. The link is in the episode description, along with links to our TikTok and Instagram account. So until the next time, remember to keep honouring your heritage and looking forward to the horizon. And I'll see you in the next episode.